All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Before we begin, please open a document that you are currently developing or remediating for a course. Feel free to follow along using the steps I'll be going over during today's session. So the main goal for today's session is to show you the steps that you can take when building your documents to make them accessible for all students. The most common instances that we'll cover in today's session include the following: adding heading structure, adding alt text to images, checking the reading order of objects in a PowerPoint, and lastly, making sure all slides have title slides. We'll also touch briefly on where to find the accessibility checker in Word and PowerPoint so you can check your work as you go. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and do that first. So whether you are building a Word document or a PowerPoint, you can find the accessibility checker in the File tab under Info. Select the Check for Issues drop-down menu and click Check Accessibility. When you open the accessibility checker, a window will appear on the right-hand side of your screen. The top portion of the checker will give errors and warnings. Errors are items in the document that need to be fixed, while the warnings are optional, but recommended changes. In the gray section of the checker, it provides a why and a how for each suggestion the program gives. When you click on one of the items in the top portion of the checker, it will highlight and redirect you to the section of the document where the error or warning is located. I'll demonstrate how this works shortly. Without proper heading structure to break the document into digestible sections, the screen reader will only decipher the document as a giant paragraph. Changing the font size, color, and emphasis does not equal a heading structure. After you've built your document and divided up the sections that you want, you can go back and add the heading structure. Your document should have the following distinctions. It should have a title, use of heading 1 and or heading 2 styles, and paragraph. So let's see this in action with an example document that I have here. All right, can everyone see the Word doc that I have pulled up? Okay, I'm going to assume that everyone can see it. So let's see. So I have an example document here that answers questions for students about course evaluations. To make it more accessible and easier for the screen reader to break up the sections, I can add a title and heading styles. So first, I need to edit the title portion. There are two ways that you can change or edit the title of any heading, excuse me. I can double click on the row I want to highlight and select styles and select the title option, or I can highlight that section and go up to the style section in the program on the Home tab, and then select title that way as well. So I'll go ahead and make that change. Next, I have frequently asked questions acting as headers. So let's make that change as well. So the first question I have is, what is Smart Evals? So I'll make that my heading 1 option, as it's the jumping off point for the rest of my document. And the rest of the questions will have a heading 2. So let's go to this one here, and I highlighted that, select styles. I'm going to go to heading 1. And then for the rest of these questions, I'll just highlight and make these heading 2. Okay, so after I've added those different headings to my document, now I can go into the accessibility checker and see what other changes the program recommends before I save my document. So I'm going to go to File and select Check for Issues, and then check Accessibility. And over here on the right-hand side, I have the ever popular missing alt text for an image that I have at the bottom of my document here. So I would, let's see, that's in the footer, so I have to double click on that. So right here, I'm going to add alt text. So I would right click on my image here, then go to size and position. Nope, I do that every time. Right click and then select format picture. And then I'm going to select on this crosshair icon that is layout and properties. And I will add a description. So it doesn't have to be a very long description. So this would just be the College of St. Rose logo. So you'll notice that now in the accessibility checker window that I have over here, that missing alt text has disappeared because I added the alt text to the image. So I'm going to close out of that. And you'll notice that I have a couple of warnings here as well. Let's look at this unclear hyperlink text. So I'm going to click on that, and it highlighted the hyperlink in question. So what would happen is if I left it as just the URL, the screen reader would read it just as it's written. So instead of having this long hyperlink that the screen reader would have to read, I can give it a more specific name to give it a title, more or less. So I would right click on the hyperlink and select edit hyperlink. And in the text to display option, this is for the student gateway on the St. Rose website. So I'm going to write student gateway, student gateway, and then select OK. All right, and then a couple other warnings that I have here is the heading is too long for some of these. So let's see. These are pretty specific questions for Smart Eval, so I'm actually going to leave those alone. But if you do have some headings that are too long, you can make those adjustments as well. I'm going to close out of that. Let's go back to my PowerPoint here. All right, so now let's talk about PowerPoints. There are three main things that you should check for within your PowerPoints while you're building them. So you have to make sure that all slides have a title. Much like Word documents, it's important that the slides have a heading structure. With slideshows, that element is the title. This helps organize the PowerPoint into those digestible chunks for the screen reader. Also, make sure that each slide title is unique, so the user is aware that the program has moved on to a new slide. All images or graphics need alt text. As I mentioned at the last workshop, it's important to double check auto-generated alt text to make sure that these suggestions are correct. If you are using decorative images, make sure to indicate that there is an option with images to select mark as decorative, but some programs don't have that as an option. Or you can create an accessible version of the document without those images. And lastly, double check the reading order of objects in your PowerPoint slides. So I'll go over how to do that next. So screen readers rely on the order of objects in slides. While in most instances it will be in the correct order, it's best practice to double check. We can check the order by going to the selection pane. To access the selection pane in the Home tab, click on the down arrow next to Arrange and then select Selection Pane at the very bottom. This will open a side panel with the order of objects and how they will be read by the screen reader. Something to keep in mind is the screen reader will read the objects from bottom to top. You can see which object the selection pane is referring to by clicking on the item in the list, and it will show that selection in PowerPoint. If you want to rearrange the order of the objects, you can drag and drop the item in the list, or use the arrows at the top of the selection pane menu. I call it the eyeball-like icon next to the items in the list is for hiding them from being read by the screen reader. If you want to make sure, or if you want to make a separate accessible version of your PowerPoint, you can select the eye icon to hide the items in the selection pane. This will hide them on the slide as well, just so you know. This may be handy for decorative components that are not necessary for the content of the slide if the Mark as Decorative option is not available in your version of the program. So let's take a look at a PowerPoint to see what revisions I can make. So I'm going to go into the file and then check for issues and check accessibility to open the accessibility checker. And as you can see, I have that very popular adding alt text to the different graphics and images that I have in my slides. So let's take a look at slide 8 here. I have 3 different images that need alt text. So I clicked on the item in the list and it brought me right to this slide. So let's see. I'm going to right-click on this image and then select Format Picture, not size and position like I did before. And then go to Size and Properties here, the little crosshair icon, and add alt text. So this is the security options security options window that Zoom offers. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to select my next image over here, which is the Participants tab in Zoom. And it has the remove option selected, so I'm going to add that quick little note here, Participants tab in Zoom with the remove option highlighted. And then the last image here is selecting the participant in the Zoom window and then using that remove option there as well. So let's see. Participant selected, Zoom window with the option selected. Okay. And you'll notice on the right-hand side here that because I added the alt image or the alt text for these images, those items listed in the accessibility checker have disappeared. So that means that they're all set. Let's go to my group 6 option or item here in the accessibility checker. So this is actually 2 images that I grouped together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this group 6 option, and I already have the format picture open. So I'm going to add my alt text. This is the Zoom profile page interface. Point your finger. Okay, and I'm going to click off that, and that alt text is all set. So let's do a couple of, I have one more example here where a slide title is missing, or a slide is missing a slide title. So I'm going to go to that slide. And this slide is a continuation of the previous slide, which was about security settings page, or about the security settings page in Zoom. So I'm going to go back to that slide. And I'm just going to say security settings page continued. Okay, so then that way the screen reader knows that it's a different slide than just using the same slide title I had on this one. Okay, so if you look at the accessibility checker window, there's also a recommendation to check the reading order of the slides. So let's look at one of those examples also. If I would, to do that, I would select the slide I want to check in the accessibility checker. So let's go to slide 1 and go to Arrange. Then the selection pane at the bottom of the menu here. Okay, so remember the selection pane goes in reverse order. So the first object that the screen reader will read is the last item in the list. So let's see, it goes title, subtitle, picture, and then the other picture. So this slide layout is pretty basic. So the reading order looks good to me. So I'm going to say that's good to go. And let's look at one that's a little bit more complicated and definitely needs adjusting. So let's go to slide 4 here. So the current order has the word art graphics being read before the images, which could be confusing with how I have my slide laid out here. So right now it has the title being read first, then the content that's in this bulleted section here, and then it has my bottom image, the top image, and then the word art selection here, and then this word art selection. So that's definitely wrong. So I'm going to fix that. So as I mentioned before, you can either drag and drop these in the list, or you can use the arrows at the top here. So the order that I want this read in is, I'm going to put that back where it was. So I want the title first, and then this text over here. And I'm going to have my top word art selected to go after my bulleted section here. And then let's see, next I want, oh, it hit it on me. Okay. So next I'd want the content placeholder. So this would be the next, oh no, hold on, I'm confusing myself. Okay, so I want the word art here. I'm sorry, no, I don't. I wrote this out ahead of time. Okay, so let's see, title, content placeholder, and then I want this. Yes, okay, I want this read next, and then the, so that would go before this image here. And then I want this to be read before the content placeholder here. Okay, I knew I'd get there eventually. All right, so now that order is all set. So that should be good to go. All right. All right, so that was everything I had for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now, or if you have any questions after this workshop is being done recorded, feel free to contact online learning at stros.edu and we'll be happy to help.